This conference will now be recorded.
I now call this meeting of a regular meeting of the City Commission to order. Dan, roll call, please.
Mayor Roberts,
Here.
Commissioner Trujillo,
Here.
Commissioner Gandy,
Here.
Commissioner Bowe,
Here.
Commissioner White. Here.
Commissioner White, Julie.
Will you please pray with me? Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for your grace. We thank you for your blessings and prosperity that you bestow upon us. We thank you for the fact that we live in America today. Please help us love our children so much that they believe that we love them more than ourselves. Please help us love our friends so much that we make the world a better place for them. And please bring people into our lives that allow us to be ourselves and love and support us on the days that they don't even know we need them. Comfort our hearts and ease our busy minds so that we may be still and know that you are God. In Jesus' name I pray, amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Salute the flag of the city of Mexico, the city of Simple, perfect friendship among the United cultures.
Thank you, Steve.
Mr. Mayor, I want to make a motion to approve the agenda.
Have a motion second. Agenda, are there any discussion or correction? If not, Shannon, roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Trujillo?
Yes.
Commissioner Bowe?
Yes.
Commissioner White? Yes. Commissioner Gandy?
Yes.
Mayor Roberts?
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion for considerations of minutes of July 25th, 2022.
We have a motion second on adoption of the minutes. Any discussion, any corrections, any additions? Hearing none. Shannon, roll call, please.
Commissioner Gandy?
Yes.
Commissioner White? Yes. Commissioner Trujillo?
Yes.
Commissioner Bowe?
Yes.
Mayor Roberts?
Yes. Brings us to the staff commissioners report. Ms. Shannon, would you like to lead off?
Yes, at our next meeting, we will have a hearing for liquor license. The name, the corporate or the limited liability, it's remained the same, but the names will be changing on that without plain investors. So we'll hear that at our next meeting. And also here tonight are Steve McCleary and Derek Moore from the junior college. And they're going to present on the voting for the bond in the upcoming election for the education.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor, thank you for having us. Appreciate the very much. I first want to introduce Dr. Derek Moore. He's the newspaper. I'm the old guy leaving. He's a new guy coming in. And I've got a smile on my face. He does. Just kidding. I'll tell you what, we did start with 27 people maybe. The president's profile, he checks the bosses on every one of the bosses. He's a good guy. Medicine month, he's been to 70 meetings in Lee County, Downey County. It's a lot of meetings, you know. He's road weird, but he sits there in rodeos and tell all of that dinner on Saturday night. And he's just wanting to introduce himself and say,
Thank you, Dr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, thank you for allowing us to be in your fine city on this afternoon. As Mr. Dr. Perry mentioned, I've had an opportunity since we've been here, my wife and I, to visit Lovington on several occasions. Ironically, we celebrated our 29th wedding anniversary on this past Sunday, and we ain't able to find restaurants to find a steakhouse. But nonetheless, I'm glad to be here representing New Mexico Junior College and also looking to serve you all. And want you all to know that New Mexico Junior College, that we are the community's college. I look forward to getting to know you all and the environment of this city. Thank you for giving us an opportunity to speak with you about the GO bond election that's upcoming. Thank you so much.
Mr. Mayor, I got Parkinson's about 4 years ago, so I'm not drunk. But I told y'all just laugh at me, pick me up, rest me up, okay? I'm running operations about 2 miles an hour, my mouth wants to operate at 8 miles an hour. So if I can get the two together here. So first of all, I want to talk to you about the GO bond. Can you imagine New Mexico without an ed school or law school or engineering school? I can't imagine that at all. GO bond happens every living number of years. We vie for these, we get to vie against University of Mexico, New Mexico State, all the other colleges in the state. If you think about it. I mean, many of you have association with many colleges here, so it represents 22 different entities. Now, there's a couple of things that I want you to know. First reason, I think it's worded on front. There's no tax increase. That's the number one reason, no tax increase. Second thing, these projects are showing, they present, I have their project ready, 90% ready to build. So if you support this, when taxes, the issue bonds in late May, will be able to build by June of next year. Third reason is we got $2.1 million on the GO bond from Mexico. Your college, you know that. Got a long relationship with you guys forever and ever and ever. From the beginning of the college. $2.1 million for a workforce training facility. Now, there are lots of facilities on campus. If you haven't been out there, I'd love to show around. Here's the thing. We don't have enough space for our workforce training. We have about 1,800 students. We don't have enough space for them. We have about 4,000 workforce training. So, you know, CDL, this we're doing training in. Welding, we're doing training in. So it goes on and on and on. This goes on and on. We get no funding for that. That's the third. The fourth is when I took over in 1998, a long time ago. I testified before the committee. They said, you never passed a bond down in Big County. So if you give us a facility, pass a bond. They give us a facility, and guess what? We pass a bond. Every year that we've had a facility on the bond, we pass it in Big County. That's important. It's really important because he's got to go back next fall. We don't want to sit up there and, oh, man, we didn't pass a bond, right? So we're sitting up there, great thing there. So we went up there, and it hurt me. So that we don't pass a bond in Big County. Now, you have all said, I've said it too, we've all said, if we send our money up there, we never get anything back. All the money from Lee County goes up to San Pedro. We've had over $50 million come back to us. In the next year, you got just some GO loans. So please don't say that if you're not going to vote somehow, vote for this. I can't say that really. So part of this. I just tell you, they would have you vote on this. I can't say that, but I can tell you that it's worthwhile. So with that, I would say one other thing, it's going to create about 2,000 jobs just in the state of Mexico. We got jobs galore here, right? We can't have that here. The rest of Mexico, think about it, you take $250 million out of circulation for a year. We captured about 5 years ago. We took our project off. The GO, for some reason, they took it off. It failed miserably. $250 million out of circulation for the whole state. What happened? I was able to get it fairly well and others. John Smith, we got our project back, so we don't want to say it. I don't want to do that again. It's not good for us. Take that out. We need those jobs. We need this. Well, I mean, we need for everybody. So with that, do you have any questions? Thank you very much.
Dr. Shapiro, we appreciate you. I know you've kind of filled in the past few months, and I know you had hoped you were gone for not good, but at least gone, and we appreciate you taking that. New Mexico Junior College is and has always been a big community partner and also an asset to our county, and we appreciate the work you've done. We look forward to the work that you're going to do. I mean, we welcome you to our community. I have nearly 60 years worth of experience here, and junior college has been a big part of that in the education of our community. So we appreciate what you do. And we support the junior college.
I'm gonna be around a while. He asked me to stay to help transition.
Of course.
So I'm gonna transition a little bit down and go back to English. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
Anything further?
No, it's all right.
Ms. Tracy?
Last week, the finance department went to a conference and made some good contacts. Some people that are, know a little more and are willing to let us contact them for questions. We're also starting training tomorrow here at City Hall. It's gonna be a Zoom, so it's gonna be all week. Also, Commissioner Gandy had requested a report with the GRT, and I started on it, and I kind of wanted to give you guys a little look at what I've been working on. So I'm gonna pass it. Would y'all pass it? It's kind of a breakdown of how the GRT is laid down. I haven't finished it, but I've done the lodger's tax, the VITA, and just the general GRT, what we received. So this is just kind of to give you a little look at what I'm working on, and I'm going to try to have it done by this week. So I still have to do the gas tax. There's a few more to go with it. So it's just kind of start just to kind of let you know.
Any further? Any questions? Thank you. The only question in which falls under the concerns is, and I know we had a big discussion in our last meeting, give us a timeline and on the fund balance, because when you think you'll be able to get everything separated out. I mean, I know you're still working on all of this, but it's imperative so that we can finally determine what the city general fund account balance is. Can you kind of give us a little bit of update on what you're working on, how it's coming, and maybe an estimated timeline of when we can expect?
We're still working on a few things, few kinks that have come up in June. And as soon as we get that done, we should be able to move forward with the fund balance and things like that. Shouldn't be too much longer. We're trying to get that all taken care of. We're at the very end, I promise.
Guaranteed.
Yeah.
At least by the 1st of September?
That's what I'm like to do.
Yeah. That's all been, yes, we finalized, obviously, the budget. They won't approve it, I don't think, or finalize it until about next month or so, or do you know?
I do not, on that, I would have to look and find out or contact somebody to find out on that. But I do know we sent in the final budget. We've also responded to the auditors, right? There was a letter, we had to respond to them on the findings and things.
All right. So we've got a lot of items that we're waiting to figure out if we can move forward.
Yes, sir.
And, all right, Chief?
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, Mr. City Manager, last week we had one officer leave for another agency in Texas near Lubbock. He had basically been living there since he rejoined us last year. We have hired an uncertified officer who we will put into the academy in January. We had another uncertified officer start the academy today. He's due to graduate in December. That still leaves us with 19 officers out of 28 slots, meaning we are down 9. And we're currently authorized to hire 2. Myself and other police chiefs met with the governor last week in Albuquerque. She announced a plan whereby the state will fund police departments with approximately $10,000 for each new cadet we hire and train in an effort to hire more police officers statewide. Lastly, we have set a date for the departmental active shooter training. It will be held on Saturday, October 15th at the Lovington High School with the cooperation of Superintendent Quinones. The Lee County Sheriff's Office will provide 5 instructors, 5 safety officers, and all the necessary equipment. They'll also cover all calls in the city for the entire day so that all our officers may attend this training. School personnel, LCCA, and EMS will all participate. This will also involve approximately 30 to 40 role players. There will be 8 hours of classroom instruction followed by about 4 hours of scenarios. I invite all the commissioners and the city manager to come and observe this training. This training will be the most comprehensive active shooter training Lovington has ever had. Thank you.
Question?
Yeah,
We should go.
first of all, I'd like to say, again, thank you very much for being proactive on this. Appreciate it, gentlemen, very much. We had a couple of questions. How's our operation cleanup coming along?
Actually, it was the city manager's desire to have yourself, I believe, and Commissioner Gandy tour some of the sites this week at your convenience. Kind of give you a little visual on our progress. So we'll set that up at some point.
Coming along pretty good?
It is, we have cleared probably 4 or 5 properties completely. We're working with the landlords. In some cases, we're working with Patrick. You know, some are easier than others, depending on how cooperative the landlords are. We continue to tow junk vehicles and deal with the other quality of life issues.
Another thing, I've still noticed a fair amount, I can say a real lot, a fair amount of broken windows. Vehicles driving around, we probably from the hailstorm.
Right.
I was wondering, because I've seen some of them that are pretty bad shape that really should be on the road being driven.
Unsafe.
Right. Are we gonna start
Yes, sir.
cracking down on them?
Yeah, we were being a little, giving them a little time to, make the repairs, but it's kind of on a case-by-case basis, but yeah, we will start enforcing that more strictly, along with the muffler ordinances and the other things.
So I see some windows that are completely shattered all the way across, and
Yeah, that's not
the
acceptable.
vehicle shouldn't be on the road. Somebody's gonna end up getting.
Yes, sir.
Another thing I wanted to ask, bring up, I seen that they're coming along on the fence where the station is there.
Yes, sir. We were waiting to get we got 2 motorized gates.
Mhm.
So South Bend Builders is building a great fence. So, and after that's done, we'll get the parking lot paved.
Now, my question is, you have cameras on the inside, right?
Yes.
How are you gonna see on the outside? Do you have any cameras on the outside that you're able to see on the streets? Because I know once the fence goes up.
We won't be able to see outside.
Right.
It's our intention to put one on B and one on Love so we can see both ways.
Okay.
Once the fence is up.
Okay. So I'm just looking at,
We want to be able to see what's on the other side.
yes, sir. That's what I wanted to bring that to the point. So,
Agreed.
thanks, sir.
Mr. Gandy? Oh, I thought you, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I forgot what it was. It'd be better.
I'm sorry about that.
No, no problem. Oh, I remember now. Sorry.
Okay.
Date. You said that. She's not.
Saturday, October 15th. And I invite you to observe, and you can role players if you wish, any family members 16 and over, will be role players. We're going to be treating injuries and everything and try to make it as realistic as possible.
Well, I would like to commend the LPD on the fair and rodeo, all the activities that y'all were able to monitor in addition to the sheriff's department. As far as I know, I've heard 0 problems. I mean, there's always problems, but I didn't get any calls that I know of. And everybody said it went as smooth as possible, and I just want to commend your department for helping and assisting in that and basically taking the lead on the majority of it.
Thank you, sir. I think actually it went better than most years.
I tend to agree with it.
Saturday night.
And Saturday night, yeah, was a lot of people, so.
I was out there till midnight. We have a lot of cars, but that's. So,
We appreciate it.
thank you.
Archie.
All right, Mr. Mayor, members of the commission, so we have one ambulance that's in the shop. It's headed on transfer, broke down. It's got over 250,000 miles on it. Candy Cane Water Well Service has finished with the fire hydrant testing. It's 5,500, that's split between myself and the water plant. So my stats for July, we had 261 EMS runs. We had 41 transfers, 17 airport runs, 97 refusals, DOAs, cancels, 10 tail calls, and 26 fire calls. Right now, I'm currently working 2 arson cases with the Lee County Sheriff's Office investigators from July 27th. Both houses that were involved were in the same family. I have one of my engines in the shop at Sid's Barton and Levitt. And it's 14 years old. This is the first major breakdown it's had. I really don't even know what's wrong with it. They still haven't even found that out. Other than that, that's all I have.
Yes, sir.
I know we were talking about testing on sirens. Where are we?
So we currently test them right now. We just don't set them off. We do it every month. But as far as the setting the sirens and everything off, we have not rescheduled that. With all the other stuff we've had, plus fair rodeo, we, like I said, we were 261 EMS calls last shift, and we're already at 90 the beginning of this month because of fair and rodeo. So my guys have been running, and that doesn't count on the rodeo coverage that we have to do all the slack and everything. So
No, I understand.
we're just busy.
I just want to ask, be updated on that, so when we do, we can make sure, I know we talked about it before, putting it out there numerous, so pretty much everybody's aware.
Yes, and that's what I did last time, and then of course, they even did it, say it was all cloudy.
Right.
Looked like it. Right, so.
Any questions? Thank you, President. Please vote.
Yes, this past week, Lee County Fair Rodeo, great turnout. Thankful for everybody that made it out there. You know, a lot of our businesses were really doing good. A lot of people in there. I want to thank everybody. Again, shop locally, local. Appreciate it very much. And just keep doing what we're doing. It's hopefully going in the right direction. Appreciate everybody. Thank you all for getting out there.
Mr. Clark. Mr. Pugh.
I'm good. Thank you.
Just a little, want you guys to think, okay, as a mom, I should be worried about back to school, and as a commissioner, our capital outlay money. But this week marks many sad memories for me. From living at the rehab center with my dad to visiting the hospital with mom and planning funerals. I keep thinking if we just get through Jordan's birthday without death, we'll make it. We buried a father in August the last 2 years in a row. But then I think about the mother we buried just last October. And so I don't need you to feel sorry for me, no sympathy. If I seem foggy or preoccupied, do not take it as weakness or inattention. Just know that my head is full and my heart is heavy. Instead, I ask for your support and understanding and invite you to take a minute and look at our little city and all we've lost the last couple of years. Look at the people around you and know that almost 100% of them have lost a family member or more recently, and we're all hurting. Take time to listen and love each other, and teachers, please be good this with our kids this year. Thank you, that's all. Wasn't gonna cry.
Commissioner. can follow that. I'm with you. David,
Yes, sir. I just wanted to give an update on the convenience station facilities. You guys had a concern on last time. So the convenience station and the shop, the street shop, they are on two different utilities. So for right now, the street department, our street department is still in the shop. And so those utilities won't be transferred until they get out officially. And so for the convenience station side, we have contacted the county and been working with them. They opened a water count for the convenience station. There's 2 meters and they opened them up for both of them. There's 2 poles for the county electric and they have been transferred over to them. There was no gas at the convenience center, so we didn't have to worry about that. Lico's working on this service transfer and then waste management is as well. But like I said, as soon as the streets department gets out of the shop, we will work on that part. That's it. That's all I have tonight too.
question? City Manager?
Mr. Mayor, members of the commission, I'm going to pass out a document that our staff put together. This is in response to our 2021 audit. And what I would like to do is give you a copy, and if you have any recommendations, so let me know. This report has been submitted, but I spoke to our auditor and she's willing to accept more feedback if necessary. We plan to start our 2022 audit now this September. So we'll start now in September and we will have our report by December 15th. I'm going to pass this out. And again, if you have any questions with the report, please let me know and I will pass that information to our auditor. Now, this is our response to the, again, to the 2021 audit, the specific findings. Okay, so again, if there's any questions, let me know. At this time, I stand for any questions that the mayor commission may have.
Which role?
Yes, well, I know I brought this up numerous times. People, the audience have brought it up numerous times. People in the city have brought it up numerous times. Asked Patrick numerous times. So now I'm asking you, as far as the railroad and Avenue D, can we find out, see what's going on? I know maybe I was going wrong by going to Patrick, but today I'm going to you, wanting to find out what we're doing.
I will definitely work with Patrick and contact the railroad. I know I drove through there the other day and it's getting worse. And if it's not addressed, we're going to have a major issue. So I'll work with Patrick and I'll contact the railroad and I'll report next commission.
Thank you.
Did they ever come when they said they told you they were coming?
I've got no dates from them. The last time I was at the meeting was 2 meetings ago. I missed the last meeting, but they've not sent any dates. So I think, we're in a position if we want to spend lots of time and money on it, we can. We're not in the best negotiated position with them, considering what the easement is out there. So it's not like, if we have an issue with the county, they're accessible. They're here, they're part of pretty quick. So it's a community, you can make that call and get some kind of response. It's a balancing act, how much time and how much money you want to spend on it. So.
I understand that, Patrick. I just don't want to see anybody get hurt.
Right, I understand that.
And,
So,
if your family member or my family member or anybody's family member ends up going through there and bounces over when a tractor trailer's coming through, granted, they're going slow, but that has to be taken care of. It has to be. Somebody's got to do something, because if not, something bad's going to happen. That's why I'm bringing this up numerous times. It's been brought up to me numerous times. We got to do something. Thank you.
Sure. Dr. Martinez, on that note, there were some repairs, I guess it was last week, I'm sorry, dates they really tend to go away, but we blocked it off and we actually filled, or somebody did some filling in some of the holes. I didn't know if our street department did that.
I saw that it was blocked off, but it was not our stuff.
Somebody did that work, I just didn't know who it was.
There was part of the,
We're not,
Yes, sir. They, I guess I would say either DOT or it must have been the railroad company. The problem was that they seen some holes there. And we blocked it off, waiting on them. And then the next thing I know, it's being filled up with just regular mix, like the one we have ourselves. And so once I've seen that, and due to the fact that we got fair rodeo, or we had fair rodeo and all of that traffic, so I made the choice to remove all of that, but that's all they done. Again, I'm not sure whether DOT did it or the railroad company did. Now, I can contact the DOT for you and find out if they was the one that came out and helped us with that. But the railroad company, it is kind of hard to get them to come over and help us out on that. But like I said, again, you know, if you'd like me to, I can contact DOT and find out for sure whether it was them or railroad company.
Yes, sir. If I remember passing through there, that was DOT.
Okay.
It was DOT. It wasn't railroad.
It was late, well, that's what I assumed. It was late when I came through there and noticed them, so I didn't know.
Never positive it was DOT.
I was contacted this past week, and our tire shops are getting a multitude of repairs and or replacements from that particular, or from the results of the railroad. And so I think that'd be something to possibly bring up in the state. You know, they might be liable or whatever. I don't know how that would actually work, but it's getting to the point that it's getting dangerous. As Commissioner Bolt said, I think we've got to press it somehow. I have no clue how, but we need to find that.
I think, you know,
Go ahead, Chris.
I think years back is what happened is that when we closed the entire spur that reached all the way to the Tatum Highway, we cut back X amount, and for the economic development purposes, we left that partial in for future development. And I think as they look at it, because they don't utilize it, is that it's Lovington's, you know, they're the ones that requested to keep that part of it. If not, they're going to cut it all the way back to Ferguson. That's where they're going to cut it. We requested them to keep that portion open up to the cement plant right there, just for economic purposes. And that was our request, not theirs, because they're going to cut back. So it is written like that, and I think that's why they really don't care, because they don't even utilize it. So why, if they're not utilizing it, do we make the move and just say take it out, or do we some sort of negotiation and we talk to them? Because I know that's probably what it is, because we did request that to remain intact, and that was, we felt that maybe one day somebody utilized that storage facility and bring in goods, which they did a couple of times, but it's seldom ever used, and I believe that that's why, part of the reason why is because they don't utilize it. But it was our request, and that was when Pat Wise was here.
The dairy stations used it.
Yeah,
On LNG.
so,
Mr. Mayor, members of the commission, so the tracks are not being used at this moment.
no, not by them, and that's why I think that's a big, probably a big factor, is why maintain it, they're not going to use it. So it's our call, either we tell them to pull it out, but I think it might maybe upset some people, but that was part of an economic package, just a foresight from the city. Say that we have a spur that comes into town, and if anybody wants to develop that area, especially with all the storage facilities, right, where they buy storage facilities, they can utilize that. And that was for economic growth, but that was our call at the time. So that's probably half the reason.
Mr. Mayor, members of the commission, I have a question for Patrick. Has the railroad reached out to you on this particular issue?
Yeah, 2 meetings ago, I got a response that they would come out, take a look at it, and give us a heads up so we could go out and meet them, but I've not heard back.
Mr. Mayor, members of the commission, I'll work with Patrick. I'll make contact with the railroad tomorrow, and I'll give you a response by tomorrow afternoon.
You'll attempt. I've dealt with it. You'll attempt to reach out.
Even if we just get permission for mitigation, like throw bleaching on it when it's bad, you know? Something.
Well, I think if we go in and make some repairs, it's on us, then that's gonna be on us.
Yeah.
So, you know, just not a good situation. If we do that, then, you know, we're opening up some liability to us. So that would not be something that.
Mr. Mayor, members of the commission, DOT, I think it's reasonable to get a hold of DOT if they are working on it. I don't know if they have a in contact with the railroad, but that's something else I'll look into DOT and find out exactly what they're trying to do. Yeah.
Anything further? I had another question for Dr. Martinez. and it slipped. No, I'm sorry, but good call. Dr. Martinez, I opened the letter and I passed it on to Jaylene, and it is basically from, I guess, Department of Finance, and
Capital outlay.
for capital outlay, we are required to have a fiscal agent. And until a lot of these items are corrected. So I gave it to her and asked her to make sure that everyone got a copy. Not the appropriate people did. Good. Thank you. That was it. Ms. Ball.
The Main Street project, they were on park suspension due to the burial rodeo. And they did open that one lane to help alleviate some of the traffic issues. I know Miranda had met with them several weeks before it had been in planning. The county actually took on the cost of that, and so that wasn't charged to us. We will have a change order coming through for the extra rock X and detour paving that happened on the water line portion of the project through Main Street. Right now, I was looking at that's going to be around 62,000. But like I said, I don't have the official change order yet. That's just for me being at the meetings and because I know approximately how much it's going to be. Anything else?
Yes. You should figure it out. Who's responsible, Crystal, as far as for the, I know we talked about the road signage over there.
We actually have those road signs up. Street department, we did get those ordered, and we have the 2 detour signs up, one headed out westbound that shows the 17th Street as the truck route, and we have one northbound that shows Gun Street as the.
I wanted to thank you for that. I wanted to also ask, who's responsible for marking the roads as far as the lines over by the hospital? On the east side of the hospital, there's a turn lane there.
Okay.
The roads, you really can't, the signs you can't see. There's an altercation. Wasn't an accident or anything, but the gentleman not from here didn't know that there's a turn lane there and got into a discussion because there's really not good.
So is it on the road coming out from the hospital onto the main?
Yes.
Okay, that is our markings, so I'll give the street department and we'll make sure that those lines retained on it.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
So I have a complaint about that right there. Because if you're coming, that's Deerdrift, right? If I'm not mistaken.
It's their turn.
So if you're coming out of Deerdrift by the hospital and you get into the turn lane, depending on what time of day it is, if you're a truck and you're having to swing into the other lane, whenever you take out the fire hydrant, I either make that lane an option, push the truck where the trucks can turn and then leave the turn lane out. Because typically there's not enough traffic there to, even during the heavy times, they're either turning to go down Main Street or we're turning the other way. I mean, I would like to see something different right there just because I have to turn there in a truck multiple times a day and
And you have to
And
wait.
maybe we,
You have to wait.
also, we have to wait for the traffic to go
yeah.
before we can turn. So if something could be done to alleviate that, that would be great.
We will list that.
But like I said, for right now, there's no signage really on the road that good, that's clear that somebody does see it, you know, then they would say, okay, there's a turning lane, but now you can't see it, so.
And I know that's going to create other issues because, you know, everybody's already in the habit of going
Right.
through the turn lane there, but, you know, there's no reason for the turn lane, in my opinion, because you can't turn into the hospital till further down, so you should have enough access that the trucks that turn there on a regular basis would have enough room to turn. So, because we're having to stop in the street and swing wide,
Right.
that causes another hazard. So, before we paint something, I'd definitely like to look into that a little differently.
Do something to alleviate that.
Yes,
To begin with.
Okay. I'll get with you guys. I'll get some kind of different options from up and kind of visit with you guys about that and see what we can.
that'd be awesome. Thank you.
Anything further? Ms. Ball, while you've been, various reasons out of your office, but we had a meeting with, the, what's the name of the company? For the magistrate court, anyway, I'm sorry, Red. Anyway, they're on schedule and things looking good there, so you weren't in town that day, but, we visited with them and had a good meeting, so it's looking good. And I asked you to kind of keep up. We covered quite quick.
Yes, so to elaborate on the cleanup plan, I think the chief and city manager have a pretty good idea of what's out there. There's more to get to than I think those two individuals and some of their support staff can get to right away. But I think they've got a pretty good plan as far as what's high priority. There's certainly some sites that are a little bit more, dangerous or unsightly as far as what some of the neighbors are concerned. And so I think that's where they're focused. The other thing that we've looked at on some of the cleanup is to be a little bit more proactive with perhaps like a real estate agent. And so be able to go to that real estate agent, gather some information and go back to the property owner and say, hey, this is what your property would sell for today if you could sell it in this condition, or if you had to demolish it. But if you did this and this, here's the potential. And we're looking at some where we've got some out-of-state owners and trying to come up with a way to have the city do a little bit of work and maintain some type of lien that they could file on the property, looking at if the building's raised, then they could get it sold. And so there's some different options out there that we're trying. So I think it's one of those things. I always tell clients, if the problem wasn't created overnight, it's probably not going to be solved overnight. And so there's a lot of it here. And it's hard to talk to one person property owner on the street when at the other end or a block away, there's another. And so they just get entrenched in, why are you picking on me? And there's a lot of things I think that these guys have done different to approach some of those owners. So there is some progress. And like I said, it's a little bit different approach. So hopefully we can get that done without the city, because one of our options is just, go through with the condemnation process and you don't make any friends that way. And then we bear the cost of demolishing it, hauling everything off, tipping fees, trucking, asbestos, if there's asbestos there, filing our lien, and then we don't get paid until that piece of property sells. And so on some of those properties, it's a pretty good investment. And so, if you look at it for bang for the buck, I think that's part of how they look at what's a priority. So I'm not saying for any questions on that, if you have that or anything else.
You did well.
All right, thank you.
Any questions on anything else? Thank you, sir. I have nothing, so that will move us on to our public comment time. If you have something you'd like to talk on, we encourage that. Please come forward to the podium, please state your name, and then you have approximately 3 minutes to say anything you'd like to. We open the floor to that at this time.
Where you going?
He's going to board you.
Mr. Mayor, members of the commission, my name is Deborah Maker, and I currently serve as the president of the Lovington School Board. So I come tonight to address an issue that I saw as a non-action item. Imagine my surprise when it says discussion of property exchange with the Lovington Municipal Schools. I immediately reached out to our superintendent. If you didn't remember, today was the first day of school. She has been running in circles since 6 a.m., but she said, I absolutely will be here. And I reached out to her and asked her if she had heard anything on this. And not until we got here tonight did we get some information. So I think we can do better working together on things. But just to be clear, not to get in the weeds of the discussion, because that's certainly your prerogative, but anything to do with acquisition or disposition of property that the school has must come through the board. And the superintendent would be your first step in going that direction. And so I would ask that moving forward, we always be included before we see in the agenda that there is going to be a discussion about exchange of property. I know that we're both over public entities, but I can't speak for how it happens here, but I will tell you from the school district side, we are very intentional about being good stewards of the property that has been purchased with public funds. And part of that is very much being transparent and clear on what we're doing. And we work really hard at it. And so I think that whatever this is about, again, we just got the paperwork tonight. That would be something that our superintendent would begin to look at and get legal advisement on. But I would really ask that moving forward, we do a better job of working together for our community on this. Thank you.
I think,
Absolutely.
I think the intentions of tonight was to gather the thoughts and feelings of this board, put the package together, and then send it to you guys. And then for your review of your board, and then bring it back to us and and then we get together. But I think we have to gather our thoughts and how we feel moving forward on this project before we present that to you. And I think that's the intentions tonight.
I understood.
Not to make a decision and say that we're gonna, step into on your turf. It's the whole point is us gathering our information. And once we get it, then you can review it with your legal, advisor and your board. And then we meet together after that. And then we come to a mutual agreement and move forward. And I think that's what the full intentions were tonight, not to make any decision that's gonna.
Right, I knew it was a non-action. I just think a courtesy to our district to reach out to our superintendent so that she was aware that this was happening goes a long way. So I think that we can always, on both sides, always look at ways to do better. So thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Seeing none? Yeah. All right. I'm sorry. I guess, Dr. Mancini, are you going to take this or revert it to Laura on the livestock spout?
Mr. Mayor, members of the commission, our first non-action item is a discussion on the Title VI Animals, Chapter 6.16 Livestock and Fowl. At this time, I would like Ms. Laura Brock to give a presentation.
Laura Brock. Commissioners, I did hand out at the beginning of Protection Services Supervisor, Mayor, when you came in. I did go through the different, first city is not in the state of New Mexico, but the rest of the paperwork has the different cities and what they're doing. The ones that did have chicken ordinances that I could find in New Mexico, I kind of put this together for you so that you could read through it and see what other cities are doing. I do recommend that if it's something that we are going to do, is that we definitely have guidelines permitting coops, and definitely, if you want to go in this in a direction, some of these cities have put it into zoning, so we need to decide if we're going to put it into the zoning ordinance, or are we just going to lay out in the animal ordinance what zones it can be in, or can it be anywhere? And then are we going to make it exempt for zoning to have to go and do an inspection if we're going to have setbacks for the coops? If you'll read in some of these ordinances, they have setbacks, 10-foot setbacks, things like that, how big the coop can be. One of them, it can't be over 120 square feet. A lot of them, you can't have more than 5 hens. A lot of them are no roosters, period. Some of them do allow roosters, 1 rooster. So it's just kind of on the
If you want to go with it, there definitely needs to be some guidelines, and I believe there needs to be some permits and inspections done. So we just need to kind of have guidance. If it's going to be a yay, then I can put something together with what you would like to see in it. If it's going to be a no, then I don't want to put any more time and effort work than what I've already done. Do you have any questions? Any opinions?
Well, I was thinking myself that, I know that when you first came here, you said you'd like to have meetings, public forum meetings, open meetings. And I thought to myself, with this being a topic, not affecting just us here, but affecting the whole city itself, neighbors, residents, whatever, this might be something to have an open meeting on and get discussion from public and see what their feelings are too, not just our feelings, because we're making decisions up for everybody. And I'd rather have input from everybody before we make decisions. So I would think that that'd be something that I would think about having a public meeting, having people come to it, having put out their opinions and get a census from there and see which way we should move as far as moving forward.
Mr. Mayor, members of the commission, I think that's a good idea. I can set up meetings with the public and get their input on this particular issue.
We'll do a survey with you, to the citizens, how we've done that in the past. I know we've done that in the past.
I don't know what the return is, of the, much response we get.
Not as much of the meeting.
I mean, we can do both, guys.
I mean, no offense.
But the thing is, when we make a decision up, we need a list of what everybody's putting out. And if only 2 people show up, then you know what? We're gonna base our decision on them 2 people. Well, so you need to have public input. And I understand. But to me, by having an open meeting and inviting the people, we've had people here talking about it, really passionately about it. So I think that, and I know there's people out in our neighborhoods that do have chickens, but I haven't heard anything from the opposite side saying that this rooster is crowing all day long, you know? And I know it happens, trust me, I know firsthand it happens. That's why I said I would feel that it would be better to have public opinion, have a meeting, get the people, that's their opportunity to come and speak, and I know.
No,
We might have 3 people through the door, but at least we can't say we didn't try.
No, I don't disagree with your deal. I just disagree with the whole thing. In principle, based on the fact that our forefathers went to the trouble for zoning and all this stuff, they had a picture of the community and what they wanted. And, we've been fighting with the county for 40 plus years over the ETZ. They won't enforce what they need to enforce based off of what has allowed us to have rules over. And now we're gonna let chickens in. Well, then that just opens up the EDC and you just start crumbling and picking away and all this stuff. And you might as well nearly start over and just say everything's open and let's make it more based towards Hobbs or Houston or somewhere. Build whatever you want, where, no zoning, no nothing. And so I just really disagree with it. I really don't want to hear chickens in my neighborhood. I don't want to hear roosters in my neighborhood. I don't want to hear dogs and cats in my neighborhood. Deal with those, but those are legal. So I will, so yeah, I just really disagree with it because I feel that once we make a decision, it's going to pull and open up the door for a whole lot more other things that people find acceptable now that I'm really not going to go.
Well, we know times are changing, so.
I know, and I'm not a hipster, so. Yeah.
Times are changing, you have to adjust and adapt, so.
But is it?
Dr. Martinez.
Mr. Mayor, members of the commission, I have a couple of questions for Ms. Morville. What is the standard practice among other communities, especially in Lee County, Eunice, Gel? What's the standard practice? I think we need to be consistent across the board. I don't want us to be in a situation where Lovington is unique. We need best practices and what's the standard? And what are some of the health issues? 2 questions. What are some of the health issues for allowing this?
I was looking up the health issues. You can come into diseases and things like that if you're not treating properly or if you're not cleaning the feces. And there are a few issues that can come up with that. The other, in Lee County, I don't really, Tatum has very old ordinance. I haven't really looked into jail and Eunice Hobbs. Last time, I have not known them to change it, that they did not allow chickens in the city limits.
The thing is also, is if we do allow it, how are we as far as enforcing it? We have enough personnel to go out there and enforce. That's what I have also.
We're running as ragged as, I mean, we're definitely busy. We always need more personnel. So we're gonna do whatever we're supposed to do. So if we're tasked with this, then that's what we're gonna do. We'll figure it out. Do I need more personnel? Of course I need more personnel. We're running thin as it is. But we're gonna make it happen, no matter whatever your decision is. So that's not like we're gonna say we're gonna pass this and we're not gonna enforce it. We're gonna enforce it and full force. And if we need to permit and go do inspections, then that's what we're gonna do. And we're gonna make the time. We'll have to prioritize.
I mean, I know this came about from the last meeting. We had people that were very passionate about this, and it was added to this as a non-action. As it stands, we're going to stay with the ordinance that we have, which is no fowl in the city. And then I would say is if we want to continue with a survey and or a meeting, a public meeting to get comments to possibly then move forward. But other than that, I would just say we're going to stay status quo at this point and look into it further.
Set up a meeting.
Yeah, I would. And then see if we get any response. And if we don't get any response in a couple of avenues, or at least not enough to look at possibly changing the ordinance, and then that's it, we move on.
Okay. So set up a meeting, see how many people come in and attend or are still interested in doing it. Because there was a group over a little over ago who came and wanted the chickens, and we've had a few citations that we've been giving out with people. So if they're interested, they'll have a meeting to come to, maybe we look at doing the Survey Monkey also, doing both in case people can't attend that meeting. That way there's two options. So another way for people to reach out.
And in discussion with you, basically we were looking at no roosters. I mean, this is preliminary discussion, but it at least is in the avenue that we were looking at no roosters inside the city limits. As we've discussed, you don't need roosters for laying hens to lay eggs. So that would be, and then there would be a maximum, whatever that maximum is, and if that's even if we move in that direction. So that's
And a way to keep them cooped and things like that.
and controlled and.
And perfectly.
Okay. Sounds good.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
And please, you can go through the ones that I gave you.
I really like the one where the slaughter, the slaughtering of chicken.
Yes.
I kind of like that. So it's hereby prohibited. Okay, Dr. Martinez, I bet the next one's yours.
Mr. Mayor, members of the commission, this is a non-action item, discussion of reauthorization of capital outlay grant funds. At our last meeting, I presented 21-F2785, and that is 200,000 to plan, design, construct, purchase, install, and equip fire alarm system and security tickets at City Hall in Leamington, Lee County. The next one is 19-D3058, 600,000 to plan, design, purchase, construct, and equip the Veterans Memorial Park in Leamington, Lee County. My recommendation to Mayor and Commission is to reauthorize the budget. At this time, if there's any discussion, again, this is a non-action item, if there's any discussion on this particular item.
Oh, I'm sorry, get Commissioner Twig.
Yes, Martinez. on the first one, the 200,000 for to plan, design, construct, purchase, install equipment, and so forth, fire alarm system. I would recommend highly that, I know you want to authorize funding for other areas, but if we could still have at least 100,000 for the countertops, I feel that if we can have some sort of security where somebody can't scale Jalen's countertop, with the higher, little bit higher level with glass and as well as the water department. That way, once they close their doors, they're secure and nobody, it's gonna be hard for them to scale the count. Most likely they can, but if you could make some sort of obstacle where they can, I still feel that it's needed. Because some people, I've been here where people get very vocal, and I feel the security is needed for, and if we could just allocate 100,000, and I think the countertops definitely need to be set higher where they cannot just jump over the counter easily. And I strongly feel that. I don't think it shouldn't cost more than 100,000 to do some of them. So then plus some, ensure that, so some of the doors do have the security to ensure that they can get easily locked and put in place. I just think, you see it nationwide, some things are happening. I feel that that was the purpose of this, and if we're gonna allocate some funding to other area, at least one piece, keep 100 here for something. And then my thoughts on the Veterans Memorial site. Right now, we would be only needing funding for design, and the piece of property that's out there it's only valued at 25,000 that remains out there. Design shouldn't cost more than 100,000. So if we can maintain 150 for the project and the rest of the funding be allocated for other areas, I feel that would be fair. That way that project's still ongoing because design shouldn't cost over 100,000 for somebody to design the project because the property's already purchased. So all the remainder of the property is just only property that remains only valued at 25,000. So for 25,000 design for 100, that's 125, make it 150 to insure. And the rest of the 450,000 can be allocated for other areas. That's my recommendation. That's my thoughts.
Mr. Mayor,
What is the timeline that you have to have this submitted?
I spoke to, Mr. Mayor, members of the commission, I spoke to Mr. Hubert Quintana, and we have until October to submit, according to his deadline to October. The reauthorization will take place during the session. This money should be available to us by January next year.
Do you want to put together a proposal then that we can, first of all, I guess, are we going to have to publicize it?
Mr. Mayor, members of the commission, my recommendation on the 600,000 is to reallocate either the complete amount or at least 2/3 to our baseball softball fields. That would be my recommendation. And so that would have to be an action item. Conversation for the commission to vote on reallocate.
In order to expedite it, I think we probably just need to move forward with a proposal and then let us either adopt it as it is or possibly amend it in that meeting so that we can get it finalized. And I'd say just let's put it on the next item, on the next agenda as an action item. And then hopefully we can get something that passed at that point. Absolutely.
I would like to,
Oh, sorry. Yes, I'm sorry.
I'd like to speak to the county because we have the Kirk being the county seat and we already have the war memorial right there.
Mhm.
So maybe we could either add on to that or go to the other corner and add veteran stones and make them mirror each other or just help update that one and add veteran either. Because that's our most visible spot in town anyway. Street, and we'll have this new fancy Main Street and all before he finishes his proposal.
I think it can come with design.
I was gonna say that might be in the design if we.
Yeah,
if we
so
have-
we can talk to the architect and the designer to implement that. That'll be part of the design. But the county, the county has a board already in place that's addressing this project. They have a board. And so their board will be the one that you could approach and bring your thoughts forward.
Yes, sir.
Hello. Justin, President of Loki's youth sports organization.
Yeah.
Speaking on that 600,000, we put together a proposal for the reallocation of the funding that Dr. Martinez is speaking about. And with your permission, would you like to see it?
Or we're gonna just do it whenever it comes with his proposal. That might.
Well, to help at that, we've done our homework already.
Yes.
And my expedited process since the due date is October, and I know public meetings tend to go a little slow. So we're ready if you are ready. If that's okay with the commission.
All right, I would say just make sure it's with he's going to have for us a proposal for the total reallocation for the
Yes.
next meeting. And have that available in with that and or for us to look at prior to the meeting. And we'll be able to assess it on that. I mean, at this point, I don't know, we won't be able to make any.
Not asking for a decision. Part of it,
To show us what they.
to show what we would be doing. So part of the homework is already done, as opposed to having a discussion to have a discussion.
I don't have any problem with you passing it out if you want to.
Just for y'all to see, to look at. So the numbers in blue are the itemized breakdown of the quotes that we received. And the number in green was the grand total that was given to us by the contractor. And the contractor is someone that has done these facilities for city homes, city of Carlsbad. So they're very familiar with what they do and how they do it, and they do have experience. So what we're looking to do is the breaking down of course, 100,000 is going to go to the design of the memorial park. And so we're just roughly putting our budget numbers at about $500,000. And so with that, we're going to do 2 of the softball fields and then all 3 of the baseball fields, putting them with actual clean, smooth aggregate on the internal of the fields and redoing the warming treads. This is the cost of doing those fields. Now, you notice the green shows 950,000. Now, that was a quote to do every field in Lovington. And so we just did the orange numbers of the breakdowns that we would like to complete with that money.
Can you describe which facilities you're talking about?
It would be the baseball fields on the south club and the softball fields on the.
Okay.
On the softball fields, it would be fields B and D. So that would be the southern facing fields on that facility. And in the baseball fields, it would be what they call the minor. So that is the senior fields. All those would get done. It's getting all of the internal fields completely redone and base where it's actually something that, you know, is approved by national sports organizations to host tournaments and, you know, all that good stuff. And so we went around the county, we looked at their facilities and tried to see what would we be doing to walk in this direction. And so we had that gentleman out here a few months ago to take a look at it. And so we kind of have this in our back pocket already. So using these numbers, you know, you can see we're only do a portion of it. And so, but it's a start. And so we're looking to secure additional funding in any means and manners that we can as a Lovington Youth Sports Organization to get our facilities up to par and all of them upgraded in 3 days. And so this is a good opportunity for us to reallocate that funding to, of course, better serve the needs of the children of our community. So if
Any questions, concerns? Be happy to field them.
Don't have anything at this point. There's gonna be a little bit more discussion
Yes,
tonight.
absolutely.
So all of this is gonna start kind of hopefully coming together. So,
Yes, I said,
I mean, we appreciate it. And the reason I asked the question is because we're fixing to get into a reason for that particular question. So I appreciate that. We may have a question later on, so just
yeah, I'll probably.
don't leave.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any further questions on the city manager's proposal? Okay, we'll move on. All right. Next one is discussion of property exchange with the Latino Municipal Schools. First of all, I want to apologize to Ms. Maker and Superintendent Quinones. This was not, because I'm the one that put this on here and I was not excluding you. This was brought about by our last meeting in which a very passionate group of people came and asked us to continue the lease on the softball field that I had only found out a couple of days before that we didn't own, which is part of, I mean, they're proposing to basically upgrade fields that we don't own. And so, again, it was a very passionate and long discussion that I was caught by surprise and that I was going to vote negative on a lease that I didn't even know didn't exist or was not in effect at the time, and that I was not going to do it. So fortunately, a concerned group of people taught me a few days later, and they said that several years ago, and we were able to determine that. We knew approximately when it was, but it was actually in 2006. Let me make sure that's correct. 2006, it was brought to this commission's attention that, I'm sorry, yeah, that's, okay. That the city of Lovington owns the parking lot in front of Latino Schools that y'all have made improvements on, and y'all own the softball field. So it's on that, at this particular, and I'm going to read it because you can put it up there, but you won't be able to read it. It says, city manager Pat Wise presented the commission with a map of areas the Lovington Public School System wants to close off for parking on First Street between Avenue H and Avenue I. Mr. Wise suggests exchanging this section of First Street for the Harold Reynolds softball complex grounds, which the school still owns. Both parties would have to get an appraisal of their property so that we could then move forward with DFA for disposition of any property. Mr. Kelly said we would still need the right of way over what was street or was the street at that time, is now part of your parking lot, because there's a 6-inch water line. Harris moved to proceed with the property underneath it. Commissioner changed, Commissioner Drummond seconded, and all voted aye with the exception of Commissioner Sanchez, who voted nay. All right, so that kind of brings, nothing was done. Nothing has been done since that point. Again, this was brought to my attention, and I would like to recognize that the Prices, who attend every meeting of the city commission, and fortunately do, because he said, oh, by the way, there was a meeting on this and they agreed to do the exchange. Now, this was 15 years ago. None of us in attendance, except for Commissioner.
I was freshman.
Everybody was
Drop the ball.
Anyway, so forgive me for my oversight. It was not that I was excluding you. We had to get this onto the agenda in order to get this meeting. I had reached out to a school board member. I know you know that, and I will make sure that Superintendent Quinones is just taken over. And again, it's my fault for you not being informed. It was an oversight, and it's certainly, I want you involved. But if we don't want to move forward, there was really no reason to get you involved. But that's what this is, and we will, I promise you, I will be forthright in everything.
Thank you.
It was just, it's not alarming, but to find out all of these items that I didn't just assume. I assumed you owned your parking lot. I assumed we still own the softball fields, or that we own the softball. So this is to hopefully right some wrongs or clear some minds for moving forward, because as you know, what Mr. Munoz, I'll get it out, Munoz said, we're proposing grants from the Maddox using some of our capital outlay to make improvements on your facilities. And obviously you need to be involved with that. And so there's a lot of things that needed to come to light, and anything that we decided or whatever that we, whether we move forward with this or whatever, I will guarantee you will get my forthcoming on that. So this is basically to enlighten everyone. This is a possibility. It's already been moved on. However, we never followed through. Does anyone, and Jaylene and I spent all afternoon trying to find anything further than this. This is the sum total of what was done. Commissioner, I'm sorry, yes. I'm sorry, yes.
May I just?
Absolutely.
I just was gonna say, I think the common thing is we're all working together for our kids. And so,
Absolutely.
we don't want to lose sight of that, but not to worry, we're also digging on our end. Because it looks like, there was a discussion and agreement, and so if so, then there had to have been something happen on the other end. So just to let you and the commission know, we are also reading through minutes and digging as well, so that we can get clear answers to this. Because this afternoon, I've heard a variety of stories of warehouses collapsing and groceries, and so the answer of actually who owns that is something that I think we're still, wanting to make sure we have really clear.
Well, I'm going by the Lee County Courthouse, and that's all we have to go on. What I find funny, and I know you just got this information, and I'm so sorry, but on this particular, which is block 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 of, lot 1 through 6 of block 83 of the Latino addition, which is your parking lot, is owned by the city of Lovington, but was owned in 1991 by the Lovington Public School District. So how we got in 1991 to 2006, other than if you got, I'm not going to have her bring it up. She's got it. Anyway,
No,
2000
that's fine. I wanted you to know, we're also looking on our
I
own, so
understand.
that we can connect the dots.
Absolutely. And what we want.
Because I think we all want to do what's best for our kids.
The reason I brought this up is if this commission wants to move forward with this, then it would be with the assurance that the softball complex would continue to be the softball complex until the city of Lovington decides to build a brand new one somewhere, obviously other than that location, and then we would decommission it as a softball complex. But that was, again, it was a very passionate group, and we want to make sure that, yes, we support softball, and we are not here to stop it or anything else. And anyway, that's where all of this came from. And again, we're all new. I'm certainly new, and I do have all of the stories. I can tell you how the building blew up.
I was gonna say, you probably have.
I know exactly. It literally just fell, and the only reason that we ended up with it, that we as the city, is we did cleanup. And so that was it. And again, there's pictures of, and the valuations, if you look at those, and what I wanted to state was, while it is our property, the school system, whether it just hasn't been changed or whatever, it's however the ball has been dropped. You've done all the improvements, and so by the county valuation, it's $700-something thousand for yours, $13,000 for the softball complex, but we as the city did not put those improvements on that particular, and I don't want that to get confused. So we're talking about effectively two bare pieces of land that we can either exchange or whatever we want to do based on legal advice on your end and our end, and further to figure out how it got dropped. I don't know if it's because we will need an easement on that piece of property to access any leaks on a water line. But anyway, that's, and I appreciate, and
I think that's the main thing, and certainly kudos to the group that has worked so tirelessly on improving the quality of life for the softball teams in the community. So I just wanted to comment that the school is also looking at, they're going to say, okay, where did this fall as well? So I appreciate us getting the dates, because I'm the nerd that reads through old minutes. So thank you very much.
Okay. Hector, I know it's before your time or close.
Actually, I was here at that time.
Oh, okay.
So, I kind of had a couple of stories related to me also about it. And so I don't know what happened after the meeting as far as Mr. Kelly going to meet with the schools about what was to happen next or who did what. And so, you know, normally, and it's one of those things, let's just say, for example, somebody at a meeting says, hey, I'm going to go do this. Okay, well, I don't check up on that, because then, you know, I'm sending you a bill, right, for the time and checking up. So if they come in and they say, okay, we're going to get with the school, we'll take a look at it. That's as far as I go. I don't, you know, find out where we are. I can certainly take a look at it, and I think there's a reasonable way to get it resolved, especially considering how that surface is being used, how we're using this out here, and to look at it as far as what the swap would have been at that particular time. So we've got some property records of what the tax value was in '06 for both pieces of property, and I think that's the easiest way to go.
And we have photographic documentation of what it looked like in '06.
Right.
And then later on, so.
So I don't know, Mr. Wise may have some additional information on what happened. You know, somewhere there had to have been a document, I would think, for the city, or excuse me, for the schools to invest that much money on it. But I just don't know. So it's just a matter of digging to see.
You would think there'd be a document for the same thing for us, for the bathrooms.
You would
So, you would think.
Well, but the city also put in, from my understanding, the irrigation. Because Axios that we got the bid from has the drawings of doing all of the irrigation.
Yeah, I think we
And
need,
it happens that he is a,
I think also we need
contract
to
with
reach
schools
out
as
to
well.
get some drawings, because I assumed that she had taken care of that at one time when she was
No.
mayor, because we going to move on that. Yeah, so if you some discussion on that, and then she
said, well, how do you fix it? What's the easiest way to fix it? The easiest way, if everybody agrees, is we get, you know, there's a deed that goes to the city and a deed that goes to the schools, and it's really not that difficult to fix. It's just getting the parties back together to say, hey, are we still interested in doing this? And is this still an arm's length transaction that DFA would? So it's not a hard fix. It's difficult getting everybody together, dealing with that issue, making sure everyone is still square, and then moving forward.
So my question to the commission is there any reason we should not continue and see this deal at least move forward and a decision made down the road? Because I also understand the school is in the middle of their audit or something, right? I don't know, but anyway, they asked it to be pushed back, so not you guys. But we're in no hurry, we're just trying to get this.
Now, we are in a hurry because we can't do anything as far as fixing those softball fields until we get something, yes from the schools or yes from the city. So that is putting a damper on when we can start getting those fields up to par, whether it's baseball or softball. I mean, softball is a little bit more complex because we have two entities. We've got the city, we've got the schools. So there is a time crunch because for us to start our season, I mean, we have to start like in the end of January, getting teams positioned so that we're ready to go.
I think the way to address that would be for, if you got, Mayor, if you got a proposal that said, this is what we would like to do, these are the specific things we want to make changes, additions, subtractions to as far as softball, baseball fields, we could go back to the schools and say, contemplating that we're probably going to finish this transaction, are there anything that are in these lists or this list of changes, additions, subtractions that you have heartburn about? And if the school says no, you know, kind of like your landlord, if you want to hang a picture, great. If you want to knock out one of the load-bearing walls to open it up more area, different deal. So we should be able to just sit down with the schools and say, okay, you know, if they need to make some changes to move a little bit quicker, are you going to have heartburn if these changes are made out there? If for some reason this deal doesn't go through and you keep owning that piece of property, does that work? And I think the schools could say yes or no and allow that to happen while we're sorting out the rest of it.
And I would like to propose that we just give direction to our legal and have him pursue what's in front of us and clear everything up and bring it back to us. That we have to overcome this hurdle. So I think we can give him direction this evening so he can pursue that and sooner the better. And then we can start implementing everything else on top of that. That would be my suggestion.
How much more information does the school need as far as being able to move forward on their end?
I'm sorry.
How much more information does the school need as far as being able to move forward on their end as far as legalities? Have you?
I would say everything because we're.
They just got it.
1 hour into.
And that's what I'm saying. We don't need to direct Patrick right this moment.
But you have because you have to direct him because he's going to be directed with their legal advice, and they're going to come together to make this transaction that should have been done back.
I understand he needs to be directed, but I just didn't think he needs to be directed right
But if you
now.
just do what you've done
They get their
before,
information, that you can find yours out then.
Yeah, I mean, we can wait. So, and I don't know what time frame you're looking at, but the first thing I would do is say, hey, here are the changes we want to make. We can get those to the schools and say, if these are not objections, if you wound up with the property back and you never do this transaction, would you be okay with that? And if the school says sure, then it seems like you could go ahead and move forward with those changes. And then we could sit down and take a look at the property and say, okay, it's not a hard thing to fix. It's they approving it and making sure keep going this direction and keep going back. DFA understands it's not current tax value.
Exactly.
It's tax value at the time.
Right.
We just like to do things a little slower, and so we'll eventually get there. But it's
Only took us 15 years.
Only 15.
Yeah.
Right. So it's certainly fixable. That would be the first step, is to see what changes need to be made, and then we can go from there. And then maybe as soon as the school figures out, hey, we've done our research, this is what we have, we get back together, and you know, it's not a difficult fix.
And I'll just point out, I mean, we have a board meeting tomorrow, so obviously that's not going to happen. But our board meeting isn't until September 13th. So there's, I mean, that's a lot of moving parts to come in. So I know the timing seems to be an issue, but our next board meeting that it could even possibly be considered at would be the middle of September.
Okay. What we will do First of all, we will continue to see what we can come up with. Whatever we can come up with or cannot come up with, we will relay to you and your board. And then you have, at this point, you have as much as we have. So you can present that, and then whatever we'll just continue to keep it open. And other than that, again, it's just coming into agreement. And if we want to continue this, and your board will have to agree to continue. I just wanted to present it here to see if we had any reason that anybody knew of not to have followed up on this. And that was the intent tonight. So.
And I want to say once more, I most certainly, Mayor Drummond and Linda McGinnis, the president of the board at the time, were getting together to resolve this, because it was an issue brought up when she was mayor. And I thought it was fixed then, and that's why I thought we owned it. I thought, and then all of a sudden it said, showed that we didn't. I said, well, heck, this issue was supposed to have been about 10 years back, you know? So I would get with them too as well.
So Dr. Lincoln, can we just look at renewing that contract for now to keep things moving? And whether we get a yes or no from them, it's still status quo and everyone's happy.
Mr. Mayor, members of the commission, the school did reach out to me. Ms. Quinones, administrative assistant, reached out. And so right now, Patrick submitted his contact information. So he's working with their lawyer on the details of the lease.
And Mayor Roberts, I want to go on record to say that we are in this together. Sure. It is about our kids. And what I love the passion that's come from this group, because for the longest time, our city has had nothing for our youth. And that they had to go to Tatum to compete, and that should not even happen. So I do want to go on record saying that we want to work with the city on what's best for our kids, because ultimately that feeds into our programs at the junior high and high school level. So my silence I don't want that to be represented as that I don't care about the kids. So I do want to go on record saying that I do, but we have to do things the right way.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And my shortcoming was not that I, again, was trying to exclude anybody. It was, this is what I found out in a very short time, thankfully. And then it further unearthed that the ball was dropped, and I won't hold it against the freshman commissioner that year, because they can probably say that about me in a few years, or I can say it, that I was a freshman at the time. So anyway, we will do our part. We ask you to be partners, and we will be partners, and we will strive to get this rectified.
Thank you.
All right, any further comment on this? And Ms. Taylor, we understand your time frames, and that's the reason I'm trying to get this moved. And also that y'all have a plan that is going to help our facilities. We've got to get some things lined out, but we will continue on in the avenues that we have before us. All right, nothing further on that. Dr. Martinez.
Mr. Mayor, members of the commission, I would like the Department of Street, Parks, and Rec outline the things you should probably to give it an update. And here is the using for the
my name is Jason Woodson, Mayor of Commissioners. I'm foreman of the Parks and Rec Department. Just an update on the chaparral sprinklers and maintenance schedules. We're watering 50 acres. So that sprinkler system of that magnitude is an everyday thing. It's just, that is what it is. The lighting repair, I had a couple over at Avenue D. There's no lights. I'm trying to get on the horn with C&M Electric to get them involved to fix that. Skate park, there is no lights there. There's a short between where power comes in to the light fixture itself. It's gonna cost about $11,000. And that's to pull the wire, put new wire in and upgrade the lighting to LED. And then equipment maintenance and upgrades, we put in for a traco. That's just for the simple fact that we're doing all of our hand digging by hand, rock bars and shovels, and there's myself and 3 other guys. So that's a time cruncher right there. Our mowers, we probably need to upgrade those later down on the line. They have anywhere between 17,000 to 12,000 hours on them. So that will probably need to be addressed later. And then on the recreation side, the lighting on the ball fields, I think we got that. Breakfast?
Yes, on the lighting repair, we do have the quote for 10,526 from C&M. And whenever the board approves it, we can continue with that as soon as you guys give us the permission to proceed with that. We also have on the volleyball side, we can also use some of those lighting fixes there. We don't have a quote for that. We can get that if you guys want to proceed with fixing all of that. As far as the baseball field, our lights are decent. They have not been upgraded in years. We are trying to work with the Maddox Foundation, with Mr. Martinez and all of this, to maybe hopefully, like they were saying, some of those possibly, not sure how we go about that venue as far as fixing all of that. But if we just want to upgrade the lighting on that, we can definitely get quotes on that. Now, on my side, as far as the street department, it says to repair and schedule for the street. We do have a list with crystal ball with the DOT, and we also contacted another person on micro surfacing as well for some other streets, approximately about $59,000 on work on those. And we do have some of those streets that we can give to you guys where we are planning on working on that. On the splash pad operation schedule, we've been having a hard time on all of that. At first, we was trying to get parts to get it going. Finally, I did receive some parts. We was able to do a run test for 4th of July. And then after that, we went back so we can replace some of the valves that we've seen missing or leaking. I'm sorry, not missing, but leaking. And we was not able to get that splash pad running again for whatever reason. We contacted a technician over the phone from Canada, the one that put that system together, and he went through the process, and we did find 2 other issues that he said, well, try this over here, see if that's the problem. And just like he said over the phone, we took that thing out, and sure enough, one of those was busted. So we ordered it, we got it back, trying and thinking that that was going to solve the issue. We put that thing back in. No. Finally, I reached out. I should have somebody coming over and assisting us anywhere from August 22nd through August 26th, but the time frame that he gave me. On the pool repair schedule, whenever I was given that task, I didn't think it was going to be hard to do. You know, I said, you know, I just reach out to somebody and, you know, get a quote. So I reached out to Oasis Builders. I didn't get no answer. I reached out to Pool by Design from Las Cruces. I couldn't get them to come over. Dean's Pool out of Roswell, nothing there. Pro Satellite out of Hobbs, they never answered. Lubbock, on pool service, they don't do no work at New Mexico. And then I got to True Blue Pool Solutions. Couldn't get no answer there. So finally, I got a hold of Aquatic Schools out of Albuquerque. And so whenever he came over, he did an assessment of the pool. But the thing is, he wants the blueprints or the specs, even on the slide. He says, I want to know who put it together. That way we get the right parts that we need. We need the rubber seals, or we need some of the parts. He says we need to make sure that we get the similar parts, so whenever we go in, everything fits. But the thing is, I cannot find the schematics, even for the electrical, nor for anything on the pool. So finally, I was able, through J-Link, to find out who built the pool. And so I gave them the information to them. But with Mr. Ron, he came over from Albuquerque just to do the quote. We spent about 4 hours easily over there checking and verifying it. And so since I don't have a actual quote, I asked him, I said, give me a ballpark figure. I said, how much is gonna cost us what you've seen of it? He said, what I've seen of it, Bernardo, he said, it's kind of hard to just give you an estimate without doing all the actual numbers or getting the manufacturers or the specs. He said, but you're looking at about $600,000 to work on it. I said, is that for everything? He says, no. He said, this is just for your pool. He says, I'm not talking about your electrical work, and I'm not talking about your building. So on the electrical work, I got IPS on it. They trying to give me a quote on that. One of the things that Mr. Ron did mention was, he says, once I give you the quote, Bernardo, he says, tell the commission to move on it. He says, because you only have till January. He says, to get it fixed and get it going. He says, if you don't, he says, I won't have time to assist you or help you until the following year. He covers all of Albuquerque, he covers Ferticia, he covers Carlsbad, Lovington, Hobbs, Odessa, Midland, all the way almost to Dallas. And he said he does not want to pick up no new work. He was under the assumption that I knew him or that I knew somebody close to him. He said, because I'm not doing this for nobody else. He says, just anybody, he says, I won't do it. He says, but once I give you that, he says, that's you people to move on it. He says, once we get it approved, he said, we'll come in, we'll try and start it up. He says, and we'll try and see what is working and what is not working, what we need to change or what we need to leave. So on that, that's what I have found out. As soon as I get the quote, I can either give it to Mr. Martinez so he can assist you with all of that, and then it'll be you guys' decision to see how you want to proceed with this problem.
Yes, sir. Commissioner Taylor.
Yes, sir. In evaluating that pool, can you set aside a quote that just does pool, diving boards, and slide, and all that other equipment that hadn't worked in years, even when the pool was running? Just do away with it. No, don't fix all that, because it wasn't working when the pool was working. And so the only thing I think is just essentials, this the diving board, the slide, and the pool, and then that's it. But all the water guns that they had out there, they didn't work. They stopped working probably 2 years after we got the pool. And so no use trying to fix it, because that adds additional pumps, adds additional costs, electrical and so forth. So maybe that'll help us in the cost, and maybe just have a bare pool, the first year, diving board, slide, and pool. And we can have a little fancy extra stuff later on when there's more funding available. Just, that's my feelings on it, but maybe have a separate quote where it doesn't involve all that stuff.
Yes, once it says in the quota, I guess we can highlight the items that we choose not to continue on with those. And then we can also send it back to them and say whatever is highlighted, we would like to eliminate from the quote. And so that can be fairly done easily there.
Yeah, because I don't want you to, because if we say, let's do away with that, then it involves the motor, that's what, that's why you can make it separate, though, but it's not. Because I know a lot of electrical and everything will tie into a pump. You need to make that separate.
We can, yes, sir, we can do that.
Commissioner Triolo, I'm going to rely on your tenure here. Were you here when they originally
Yes,
built that?
yes. And I was a freshman as well.
Yeah.
No, because I totally disagreed on the location. I wanted it downtown. Matter of fact, I talked to Marshall Furniture and I wanted it behind there. That was mine, but it was a 4-1 vote. I remember one day they did that time. But what we.
Well, do you remember the cost of that particular facility?
I think it's right at roughly $3 million.
So we can assume that a new facility is going to be substantially more than that.
Yes. And Pat Weiss will have more.
This is the actual price that they.
Oh. I'll let you look at it, Mitch.
And I think they keep all this other costs down.
Right.
So I think that's, yeah, roughly the whole in the project design. Probably $2 million, yeah.
Well, and that was,
Yeah.
that was, yes, again, of 2006. Or when did you open it?
Yeah.
I believe that one came in 2006, so I'm assuming he got open in 2007, because in 2006, that's when everything came through. So they built it in the summer. I'm suspecting 2007, everything was working. I think Mr. Trujillo mentioned something like that. And so that's one of the other issues that the aquatic pools, he says that a lot of that stuff needs to be upgraded as well, due to the fact that it's been a while.
I think it's been, I think the cost is so high because it's been neglected.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And that's why it's $1 million too. The article will say end results $1 million.
Yes, sir.
The biggest concern I have is the operating cost of the pool during the times that we're not using it. It's $10,000, or it was roughly $10,000 just to keep it, so they could use it for 3 months. And then we had operated at such a low price that it never even paid for the manpower. So it's a very expensive quality of life thing.
Been extremely
expensive.
And getting the personnel now to operate it.
And yeah,
I had to find that. And also concern I have is all the settling done underneath that. Because from what I heard where it was built, actually possibility of. So that's another question that I.
No argument. That's, I mean, but we can spend millions in updating that one, or we can spend millions on creating a new facility, or we come up with a solution of some sort.
I think, Mayor, when it comes to grant money, if you get a $3 million grant, matching funds maybe 300,000, let's just say rough figures. That means that costs a $1 million ticket right there, plus the location that a lot of people are not in favor of. And I'd like to assume that at the time what happened is, and this is my total assumption for everything, is that the Lovington Country Club lost it, and they're trying to put a pool between Lovington and the Country Club, so both of you have a pool. And I think that's why they press so hard to put that pool there, because I can't see no other reason why they did that. Because at the same time, they buried their pool, and Lovington lost our pool to Holiday Inn. And so they said, let's put it in the middle to where both parties can enjoy it. I think that's my assumption. But I mentioned that earlier. I said, hell, if it's gonna cost us that much, we can go out and get matching funds. It costs us $300,000 for a $3 million brand new pool in a different location. I just want children to walk or ride their bikes to it. That is so dangerous for a child to ride their bike or even walk. I would, if I had some children, I would be in my life. But that's just my.
Again, Commissioner, me, I just asked them, I said, how much something like this would be now? I said, and again, just making conversation with him. So he did say 3 to 4 million. That's several, which, the paperwork that you had in front of you back at the time, it wasn't too bad. But obviously now everything has moved up tremendously. But then again, let's say we do choose to have a new pool, then definitely you have something for another 15, 20 years. And with this one, we will invest, if we decide to invest this kind of money into this, is really not telling how long this is going to last. Now, you guys are the ones that make the decisions, but and whatever you guys decide to do, then we'll carry on.
Dr. Martinez, since you have so much spare time. No, and we've just come through one of the hottest summers that we've endured. And thankfully, we had a city partner that was able to help us in that. But, and Commissioner Danny, I fully understand. I have filled in every pool that I have ever owned, whether it was in a house that I bought or whatever, because they are a money pit. But also, we have to provide some quality of life. So we're going to have to develop a plan. And the city cannot even next year, unless something drastic happens, probably be able to open the pool next year. But we need to put together some sort of a proposal, come up with grants or whatever, and then we would encumber the operation debt or whatever, whenever that time period. But we do owe the citizens and our youth and everybody at least the time and effort to put into refurbing the current facility, completely eliminating it and going in a different facility, or partnering up with somebody to come up with a solution. And again, I understand your schedule, but we've got to continue to put this on on the radar. And I know it is. It's on our list. I understand. I put it on the list, and it's just because we've got to keep it in our sight. So.
Mayor.
Yes, sir.
One comment on that. So we know we're not going to have schools here. Can you reach out to David Shaw, see what we could do to provide lifeguards for his facility to have our children X amount of hours per day at their facility, and if that would work for them, and negotiate some sort of agreement on that. That would at least have a place for the children to go to, and maybe they could pay for lifeguards, is what I'm saying. So maybe reach out that way next year. They have a pool to go to, and it all depends if Nordy and us agree. 3 hours a day to go to the, that would say, well, for the wellness center and go swim.
We're doing that this year.
Okay, we're doing that. Yeah, I saw that. I saw that. I
We
didn't know.
pay for all the lifeguards, and the children come to our wellness center.
Okay.
I think it's in the mornings. They still have the lap swim for the adults in the evenings, but morning to middle afternoon. So Norley's already doing it.
Okay, maybe just be more open. I guess we could be more open about next year, or maybe we just need to do our part maybe on that, instead of having Nordy work up everything. But I think that it's another partnership. Something. That's good. I think there's a lot of people didn't know that, because I know a lot of children. I don't see too many children there, but we never had a big turnout out there anyway. Our facility.
We were the biggest babysitter in town. All right, I'm sorry, anything further, sir?
I guess changing the subject, the only thing I guess I want to add is you start mentioning about the railroad tracks and all of that. Remember that we had some of those issues on Avenue K.
Okay,
And what we done is with the railroad, we went half the price on that. And that's how we got that one accomplished, the best that I can remember. So the city decided to pay half of it and railroad paid half of it, and we done away with the railroads there. And I think Ramirez did that, if I'm not mistaken. But that's, something for you guys to look at or even bring to the table to them. That maybe that one will resurface and maybe they'll set that. But other than that, that's what I have.
Dustin Martinez.
Mr. Mayor, members of the commission. Bernardo, what's the estimate cost to fix the tracks? The issue that we're facing?
I have no idea on that, Mr. Martinez. I know that one's is a lot more bigger than the one that we had on Avenue K, but I can't even remember how much we spent on that one. Probably it's in your paperwork somewhere. So we'll be able to find some of that. But I would say it's gonna have to be double than that. That whatever we pay plus another, I would say 10, 20% added to that due to the fact that everything prices have gone pretty high.
You brought in a contractor to do that work?
Yes, sir. We hired, I think it was Ramirez and Son. They did that. So, but like I said, looking at the area and all of that, double that up and then multiply by another 20%, and I would think that you would have pretty close price wise.
But coming in, that's removing the track.
That's eliminating.
Yes.
Keeping the tracks as a whole.
Yes, but it's gonna be almost the same even if we decide to leave them. And, they can do that work as well. I'm thinking. But it will be costly, but then it will benefit the city as well. But we can take a look at that somewhere and see.
Commissioner Bowe, I think it would be good to add the railroad crossings onto our concern list. We haven't at this point, but that would be, since you've kind of been spearheading, would that be okay with you?
It will be fine.
Danny? And for those that weren't here, as Commissioner Trujillo said, it was the railroad's intent to stop the tracks on the south side of the Hopkins Highway. They didn't even want to serve anything past that. So that was their intent, and the city asked them to leave it active up to the point, well, actually, it was that Wallach at the time, and then we eliminated K, so that left it to the Wellington warehouse at this point. But that is as far as they were willing to at that point, and now we would be looking at probably eliminating it out of the city altogether. So that's going to be in the commission's hands at some point to make a decision based on safety and any kind of growth.
Guess we could reach out to Mark Sachs.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's gonna be mad.
Well, and
But I
The
mean,
tracks don't do go across at Avenue K, and I know Wyatt is the one that did a lot of that work to get that done with the railroad company. I don't know what the cost was and everything. I could probably have Bernardo research that and find that. And also look at who he actually got hold of to get that done. And I know there is the client down at the warehouse, the gentleman who owns those, he actually did use that until then. He has a complaint in with the actual railroad company because they have slowed his business because he still was storing different items in different companies up until 2021. And then they blocked him off and he lost several contracts over that.
Well, and you only use it for storage, of which it's a profit for them to store, and in order to open it up for him, then they have to pull everything out and then open it up for delivery. Yeah, it's an economic situation on both sides. Any questions and thank you for your report on all. Thank you. Okay. All right, this moves us to our concern list. Dr. Martinez, briefly, I'm going to just kind of speak. We have not completed the wastewater permit application yet. We hope to have it in by the 10th. Don't know that that's going to exactly happen in discussions. You may know more than I do at that point, but we're still missing a few items, and hopefully I was going to contact Jerry today, but it didn't happen. But if you know anything further.
Mr. Mayor, members of the commission, I spoke to Mr. Rollins today, and he indicated that Mr. Leo Wilson submitted a 30-day extension.
Awesome.
So that's what.
Other than that, I'm gonna let you take, if you have anything further, I think we've already taken care of a couple of areas. If there's anything new, I don't have anything new at this point. So.
Mr. Mayor, members of the commission, on the first item, the wastewater department, I'm going to give Ron a few more days to work out the details. I know we're having some issues with the lift stations, and he's working on that.
Yeah, both ends.
Both ends, yeah, and he ran into additional issues today. So I definitely would like Ron and the staff to present to the commission, hopefully next month. But I just want to let the commission know that he is working on the lift stations and the action plan for the treatment center. With that, that's all I have.
Any questions? All right, move on. Action items.
I'll let you read that one.
I make a motion of the ordinance 593, an ordinance of the city of Lovington repealing ordinance 581 dated March 23rd, 2020, which was the city of Lovington authorization, the execution of an intergovernmental agreement and a project participation agreement accepting from the New Mexico Economic Development Department an amount of $750,000 for the economic assistance to construct and equip a manufacturing and processing facility in Lovington, Lee County, New Mexico.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for approval of this ordinance. Discussion. Yeah, we already did, so, okay. I didn't know if anybody had put it on there and wanted to update. Not, Shannon, roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Bolt,
Yes.
Commissioner Gandy,
Yes.
Commissioner White. Yes. Commissioner Trujillo,
Yes.
Mayor Roberts.
Yes. Floor's over.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion for resolution 2022-080, approval to amend the animal shelter lease agreement to include vet services. Second.
Okay. I have a motion and a second. Discussion. Ms. Brock, I believe you're going to take the lead on this.
Yes, Mayor, Commissioner. It has been sent, and all the things in the red. So, okay, let me start with Dr. Dorothy Hornback has an interest and wants to go ahead and do here for us as vet and do spay neuter services for the city again.
And allow you to use the shelter funds in the summer. On the
Yes, so we'll do it together at the shelter facility. She did express that she does not want other vets to come in. So I've been looking at different ways. I do have another vet who is willing to be our consulting vet, and then we would have to hire in other vets, either out of Texas or New Mexico, to come in to do our own training services. She does not want to do that in the same building, so then we would have to either look at not leasing this facility to her anymore, or we have to look at doing it at a separate facility. This way, she would still continue to lease and have vet services here and is willing to do those services so that we don't have to seek services elsewhere. Did I confuse you?
No. And this covers all the concerns you were looking at as far as problems with her.
Correct. So this kind of clarifies that on the lease of the premises, it's going to be on Tuesdays and Thursdays. We're going to do 6 months and then every year, look at the services to see how things are going. The rental amount stayed the same. I recommend to delete the date that was in there. I'm not quite sure that was important. That was just kind of something. If you, just language, animal protection services instead of what it was, the alterations in console, just changed the name there on the maintenance. The maintenance was one of the big things that there was some confusion and needed clarity on. I spoke with Patrick. So in here, in the original one, it talks about we do all the HVAC, major repairs, all the maintenance of all the equipment that was at the facility. Currently, the blood machine was no longer put out of use. Basically, it was really so the vet just chose not to do it anymore, so we didn't have to maintenance it, and she actually has her own equipment there to do any type of blood work. Our X-ray machine is out of date, and we can't get some of the services, some of the bulbs, the parts for it. I mean, it was still working, but you had to mechanically do a lot of different things for it, so basically it's no longer in use. That just happened this past year when we had no money to replace it to begin with. Some of the others, one of the biggest things is with spay and neuter, we're going to be both using anesthesia equipment. The city for all these years was paid for the upkeep and the maintenance on that, even when we weren't using it. We are going to be using it with this agreement with the spay neuter services, so she will be doing all of our spay neuters for the shelter and for low-cost spay neuter program to be able to come into Lovington. So it was my recommendation to still continue to pay for that maintenance. It is my recommendation that we don't pay for the maintenance on, say, the microscope or the dental machine, things that we don't use that aren't going to benefit the city. That's just part of her services only that we've always paid for. Anything like SWAT, so the internet, I did contact our internet service provider. So evidently we've had a lot of internet problems, and come to find out it's because we're on internet service that really doesn't even exist anymore. It's so slow. So I looked into upgrading that service. So instead of paying like $49, it'd be $109, and we go to what basically the basic better service is right now. If we want to try to divide that, she gave me 4 different quotes on making 2 different services, one for us, one for the vet. The only problem is with what our software that we're going to use for our shelter pro to upgrade to that, we need to use the server. There's only one server in the building. So there comes this complication somewhat of what's the best way to handle that. So what I felt was best is that the city covers the internet cost still. But if it was anything, say, wrong with the computers or IT issues that had to deal with their services and not ours, they're responsible for theirs and we're responsible for ours instead of us being responsible for all of it. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Basically, we're furnishing internet to the building. Each party can use that internet, but the equipment that she uses is hers. Is that kind of?
She'll have to maintain it. It's our equipment, but she's gonna have to maintain it.
She'll have to maintain. I didn't know it was our equipment.
Yeah, so all the computers there belong to us. The only thing that does not belong to us is the blood work machine. That's pretty much it. She brings her own X-ray. The X-ray machine does.
How are the computers there that you have right now? Because I know before it was an issue.
Right, there's 4 computers. There's 2, no, there's not, there's 5. There's 2 at the front desk. There's 1 that the vet uses and 2 in the exam room. So there's 5 computers. Because every computer that we have ordered for our because it broke down and permanent for the officers has ended up in that vet clinic and quit, and it was an instant demand that we need this done now, and so that was the best solution to that problem.
So are they working now?
Yes, and they're not real out of date. There may be one where the vet's at, be the oldest. The ones in the rooms are fairly new computers. So where it becomes a problem is if she has a software system on her computer that's for her clients that she pays on that software system. At one point we were paying it, but that software system, she actually owns it. So, but if the internet isn't working, there's been some issues and problems where sometimes it's the internet, sometimes it's a user error. So it's just kind of, we need to clarify who's going to be responsible for what.
So the software that she has, is it compatible with the software, with the
Yes,
computer
it
you
is.
have?
With the computer she's using, yes. So if she has a problem, then they usually have to contact that software system, and then sometimes she'll have to call SWAT to come in. A lot of times we look at it first. Last time, it was just simply because it wasn't on the right internet service. So I just corrected that. And then it worked just fine.
Yes.
I think, Laura, one thing that concerns me most of this lease as well as the lease prior lease is that she's still doing it for profit. And we're providing her with the facility under lease is understandable. But when it comes to equipment, even computers are I can understand it because you're going to use the internet. But other than that, we shouldn't be providing her with nothing. And that's what's always been my argument, because she is utilizing taxpayers' money for profit. And I totally see that's not in our good, to take a position like that. As a city, I think it's anti-donation across the board. I mean, we're giving her everything to make a profit, and for $1,100 a month, that's my big.
And I would think she would want her own computers because there's personal information on there that we shouldn't see.
I saw,
Or her clients,
We can't. If she gives us the password, we can get into that system. That was a whole big thing also, but
we're
it's
using
kind
our-
of protected.
our
So yes, it's depending on what the city, the reason, I think in the beginning when the call transpired, the thing was the city of Lovington didn't have a vet. And so here was a fully furnished vet clinic, and what was the best way to get a vet to come in and service our town. So I believe that's what was enticing for her to come here, because it was already fully equipped. As equipment is wearing down, such as the x-ray machine or the blood work machine, then basically what I put in this contract too is that, say the dental machine that she's using, so if we have all this equipment that's in there, are we just gonna turn around and go, okay, we've decided we're just gonna take all this equipment out and you're now gonna have to furnish it yourself. And she could say, okay, that's very fine, I no longer want to do service here. If you're willing to make that whole step and say that, then that's perfectly fine. Or what we can do is she can use the equipment that she's using, which in this contract basically is, she uses it, and as it breaks down, and if it needs maintenance, that she has to do maintenance on it. If it's something that needs to be, and she has to repair it. If it's something that needs to be replaced because it's out of date or broke down from use, then she would get with me, I would discuss with city management on, do we want to replace this, or are we gonna be done like we have been in the equipment in the past? Does that make sense?
I think as long as we're not bringing in brand new equipment, because that's what happened last time. We put about 50 grand or what we've been X amount on the last computer gig and all that other stuff.
Yeah,
And
the
then
server was
that's when I
highly
found out it was all
expensive.
for profit for her, and then all we're getting is just paid neuter. That's it. We're not getting the work stuff or any of this other stuff that goes on. And she's making a big profit of it. I disagree with all that. As long as we have the discretion to replace or not to replace, I think.
I think the way to look at it would be to decide what you want to obligate her to, not just her private practice, but to have that available for veterinary services. And that was part of the process that we looked at, is if we have a vet here, what are some things we can do to attract that type of professional so that people that live here don't have to drive to Hobbs or Denver City. So part of it is providing that service to the community somewhat. So I don't think it would necessarily just be anti-donation because she's making a profit. That would have desks or other things in it, and that person can still make a profit. I think what you need to do is to take a look at, is that $1,000 or $1,100 a month, is that something that the commission feels is a good price in exchange for having that service here and renting out the building? That's really, I think, where you need to focus on. So I don't know if that is something that's, I don't know if there's another situation in southeast New Mexico similar to ours where we can take a look at what that office space, veterinary office.
$1,000 a month sounds pretty good.
I'm sorry.
It's $1,000 a month sounds pretty good.
For us or her?
For her.
Yes. But that's where I'm recommending, the only thing that we actually, what I'm asking to change is that we're not maintaining every single thing anymore. That all that we're going to maintenance is the stuff that we're using for spay and neuter, which is gonna be the anesthesia equipment. Then I'm wanting to switch over, so right now in the anesthesia equipment, you have the oxygen, they have these O2 concentrators that actually, it's a machine that will take the air that's in the room and then make clean air for the patients. So I'm looking into, and that's actually part of a pricing list that I have to switch that, so we do away from that oxygen, plus it'll do 2 patients at one time versus just 1 patient. So that way, when we do the spay neuter service, in order to do a low cost and a fast pace, we're gonna have 2 separate tables, which we'll have to invest in another table. We have the light, but then we need that equipment to be able to do 2 patients, so you go back to back, basically. So that's the equipment that we would actually be sharing. Now, when we're not there on Monday or a Wednesday doing spay neuter, then she's there on Tuesday and Thursday, and we'll utilize that same equipment. We can split it. If you don't feel that the city should pay for the complete maintenance of it, then we could say, all right, then we could take it to her and say we pay half, whatever that is, because we're half using it, you're half using it, and so let's split the cost down the middle. We can approach it that direction. The other machine is a autoclave machine, so that's what you put the instruments in to sterilize it for surgery. We have a small one that we replaced a few years ago. And in part of some of the funding, I'm looking at getting a larger autoclave machine, so we'll keep that separate. And we'll utilize that for the city's spay neuter, but then we still have that one. And then after that one, say if it's broke down, needs repair, then she could be responsible for that in the way this is written. The new writing of it.
One of the things that I guess we're looking at is I think she's now in month to month. So that's been pretty successful. So we don't have a, this is going to change tomorrow if you don't make a decision tonight. But I think this gives you a good idea of what some of the issues are out there, what you guys want to be responsible for as far as maintenance and upkeep. And then I think it's important to have Laura talk about what some of the utility costs would be. Because one of the ones that I would factor into that would be on the gas, so to speak, as far as put the dogs to sleep or surgeries, those types of things. What's that actually cost us? And then what's the maintenance on the building? And so all of those things start to factor in as far as, what kind of deal we think the vet is getting to be here for those 2 days. And then what other kind of services, she provides and stuff.
So I'll keep going if we can. So on the utility cost in this, it talks about communications, utility costs. I felt this is very vague, and it maybe this only meant I had to ask Patrick clarification. What is communications? Does that include the IT? Because that's a form of communication. So what I basically think it boils down to is the telephone service. So I just like to change the wording to that simple, to telephone services. If anybody else can think that it speaks of anything more. The solid waste, since day one, she's never had her own solid waste, so there's no point in it being in there, or we need to enforce that she has her own solid waste. She does, I do want it in there that she does have to pay for the disposal of her own deceased animals, and that's service. So even if we're going to keep bearing the cost for the trash, we're not going to cover the cost for the deceased animals.
Because she's been billed on it.
So, let's see. Moving forward, a lot of the rest of that would just stay the same. Those were the big issues. This is a little bit, we can't just sit on this. I do have another vet that's wanting to know what's going on also, that I need to keep it straight. I do have to answer to the state. I do need a consulting vet. This is of the utmost important. I've been 1.5 years in violation of this, and they're working correct at the state and the veterinary board that I have to answer to. So this is something that's been brought up for the last year that we need to kind of.
And med pricing was a big deal for you, that she wouldn't use your shelter pricing. Has she seen this? Is she gonna work with
Correct. Her and I have only talked about the spay neuter services. We have not talked about the other adjustments made into this. I was advised that I need to bring this to you and then we could move forward.
Okay.
So she may not, she
That's how you
may,
add that.
correct, she may say with these changes, she doesn't want to do it. I mean, or she can say, yes, great, let's move forward. And she did say that she's willing to start the spay neuter services on August the 29th.
This is a 1-year contract.
It's 6 months and then 6 months in case they're staying. So one thing I did put in here, the vets, at the very last, we're gonna have to add, that's not all in red on mine. We're gonna have to add the vet services. So that it's on your copy of it. So the vet services is that she would be paid for consulting vets, $500 a month. On the spay neuter, it's $100 an hour. So she is going to do it on Mondays is when her time frame of window is Monday for 5 hours. And because she would have to make an extra travel over here for that day, then she asked for the per diem for that. So that's also in yours. Then on the health certificate, so we can't come up with a price on it. We were talking about doing a certain price for the health certificates, but we were looking at the electronic program that you use. And there's 2 different prices. There's not one price. There's either a monthly and then it's like, say, $6, $7 per certificate. International certificates cost more. Or you can go with $0 a month and then it's $16 or up to $20 per certificate. So basically weighing out, and then I called the program because her question to me was, can we change or do we have to sign this and be in this contract with this type of certificate for a amount of time? I did contact them. They said, no, we can change it anytime. So in the winter months, when maybe we're not transporting as much because of due to weather, then we could not do the monthly program because cost wise, we're trying to save money. So she's all about looking at the cost wise on that. So instead of just saying, well, I'm going to charge you X amount of dollars, and then she can figure out that program, then we're basically working the program together so that we get the best cost possible. Does that make sense? So that's why on the health certificates, it said that her and I would come to, and then on a monthly basis. So we don't want to waste money. We want to save as much money as possible and be reasonable about it. So that was, I felt was the best way to kind of tackle that and working in the contract. On rabies, so anytime the animal is impounded, that whenever they leave, they do pay, if they're not covered on rabies, they pay a $15 deposit for a rabies vaccine. That deal has been made with the vet verbally between us a long time ago, that she would do that for that cost. So basically they pay the $15, we get the certificate, they go to her. Any other vet who wants to honor it, there's several who do honor it in Hobbs. They want to go there, they do it for $15. A normal rabies vaccine is going to cost you anywhere from just $30 to $40 if you go to your vet. So it's kind of a price break for us, and that was put into there. It's just something we've always done together, working together, and that was actually put into the contract.
It's only for 6 months.
Okay. My question, sorry.
Yes, sir.
I know you basically amended this to write some things that haven't been operating well for the city and for the shelter.
Yes.
Okay. I know you had some contact with Dr. Hornback, but she hasn't had any input into this. Is that correct?
Other than the vet services, the vet service
Part of it? Okay.
Correct.
All right.
She is okay with that. She's the one who said that she would do 1 day a week for 5 hours. We'd start there on the spay neuter. It, not just for shelter animals, but also for a low cost program. She is busy with horses right now, but once she can get a little less horses on her plate, then when that opens up on Wednesday, then she said, as needed, we would start adding Wednesday as we could. So done it throughout Lee County for the spay neuter program.
Okay.
Yes.
I just wonder if the county reimburses you for their part of that.
We're in negotiations and talks with the county on how to assist the city because they are very much for a spay neuter low cost program in Lee County.
Okay.
Okay. I know you have looked at this.
Yes.
Okay. And I understood what you said a minute ago. One, we're currently operating under an agreement that is within a month. But I'm assuming that the amendments, you any amendments in here, you have no problem.
No, so I think the thing to do would be if the commission looks at this and says, you know, we're happy with the dollar amount per lease, or we're happy with providing internet, or her providing internet, whatever that might be, then we can get some direction, make some changes to it, and then go visit with the vet. And what I talked to Laura about is to make those changes that are going to work for her and bring them to the commission. If you guys are happy with them, then we can go talk to the vet. I didn't want to talk to the vet and have you guys come back and say, well, we actually don't like this, or we really want more of this and less of that. So we can, you know, start from this particular point. And the vet may look at it and say, where do I sign up? Or she may look at it and say, hey, there's 5 or 6 other things that I want to incorporate in, and then we're back to negotiations.
If that's the case, I would take and I would tell her, okay, well, we're gonna come back and next one, we're gonna split the costs on everything and the rent's gonna go up to $1,200.
To.
Right.
If you're
So-
paying $105.
It's like bending over backwards. And
Well, that's what went to.
right. That's what I'm saying. I would say if she doesn't agree with us, then I would tell her, okay, then this is the way it's gonna be. You want to do service here, you want to work here, because we have another vet that we could get, right?
Well, not to come in and open a business, do not mistake that.
Right.
But we still have.
So if she doesn't want to do the spay neuter services for us, and we want to, if we're okay with not having a vet here, then yes, we have somebody who's willing to help out, and then I will be contracting and we will be getting on the board to find other vets to come in and bring for those days to be able to do services.
Because this seems to me that it keeps coming back, this is an ongoing issue
Yes, sir.
with this vet. So something needs to
And
be.
she's pretty much getting reimbursed her whole rent, $500 and $100 more. So I would say like 3 because.
So you're gonna work it towards the, you know, you want to help people out and everything, but you don't want to be taking a kick in the ass either. That's what I feel that we're
Because
doing.
you have maintenance costs. We don't recoup anything.
No, at this point, we do not.
Okay. The motion on the floor is, and second, is to adopt an amended, the amendments to the contract.
It's just to consider
Just to give
for
them.
now. We said approve. It says to approve.
Yeah, it says to approve, yes. Okay, so we either, we can approve it, approve the amended. We can amend the amended, which we would have to amend the motion. And it is only a 6 month. So my opinion is that, first of all, she hasn't seen it. So all we're doing is approving to extend to her a contract, which based on discussion, are we okay with the lease amount? And if she were to say, I take it, then we're stuck with it for 6 months. Okay, but she takes on all the others, which is not a big change. What is her current lease? It's, I think it's 1,100. Is it
$1,000. That's it. That's all.
is it 1,000? Okay.
A month, and she's, or, yeah, she pays like 6 months at a time.
Okay. So, the price of the lease is open for, amending at this point, or anything else that anybody wants to amend into that. Or do we just take it at face value and offer it to her and see what she says? And then we would, if she agrees to sign it, then basically we're stuck in for 6 months. So that's where we're at. That's what's on the floor. Does anybody have any further discussion?
I say 1,000 if she brings her own stuff, computers all, or like 3,000, the way it is now. Because it's ridiculous.
It's only a 6 month lease. As it's so crazy, it's still 6
I'm sorry.
months. 6 months. It's only 6 months.
That's what I'm saying. We're not losing anything that we were. We are gaining in certain areas.
Yes, yes, everything that's been added in here is basically gain.
Right. for the city, correct?
Yes, everything, even
That's,
on the
that's,
maintenance
that's
side.
just everything that's been added in,
Okay.
there's a gate.
My concern when we started this, not tonight, was that the citizens of Lovington have a vet accessible to us. Now, whether 2 days a week is accessible or not, but we didn't have anything ready to go. So that was the reason I recommended we keep it as short as possible. And we evaluate how it works over the next 6 months. And I would ask that you probably give us an update at least once, one meeting a month. And kind of, because we all understand there has been problems in the past and it's come down to my way, your way, highway, whatever. So as long as we understand it's 6 months and we need to be brought up or apprised of how it's going so that we can make the decision again. So we have a motion and a second on the floor. Patrick,
Before we get to that, if the plan is to take a look at it for 6 months and reevaluate, so we can take a look at what costs would be and all those other things. And the only change I would recommend would be on the term is to take a look at, 6 months commencing on September 1, 2022. Parties may renew for subsequent 1-year term upon mutual consent, subject to the terms contained herein, about subject to mutually agreeable terms. So that gives us the flexibility to say, well, this really didn't work out like we thought, or we need more of this or less of that. Then we're not just subject to these terms, we're subject to mutually agreeable. And so that gives us some option to make those changes.
Well, wouldn't that really be the same as mutual consent?
Well,
It says in here?
it's mutual consent to the terms contained. And what I'm saying is.
Oh, I understand what you're saying.
Can't raise the rent, you can't.
Yeah, so do we both agree on these exact terms? That's what it would say right now. Because the previous version we had,
Okay.
everybody was happy.
Okay,
What I'm
after
saying
the
is
6 months.
we mutually agree on mutually agreeable terms and conditions. It could be these terms, it could be a little bit different than these terms.
Okay,
So
on that note, with the termination part of this, it's a 90-day. So does that shorten our scope to 90-day evaluation?
I don't think it would shorten it. I think over the next 6 months, we really got to figure out exactly what's going to make these guys happy.
I would agree with more.
Okay, so if, let's just say we wait 6 months before we agree that we're not going to go forward, then it makes it a 9-month, because we'd have to give her 90 days of notice
Correct.
before that truly could be terminated.
No.
So, okay, good. That's the reason I wanted
It's a 6-month term.
Okay.
And so you don't have to give a termination notice if you have.
When you have a term.
Right. Let's say she comes over and says, hey, I'm sick, I can't do this anymore, gotta give you 90 days notice. Or we say, the roof got blown off, we can't afford to put it back on, we're giving you our 90 days notice. But if it's a 6-month term, nobody has to give any additional notices because it terminates automatically at the 6 months.
Okay, all right.
But you could, if you wanted to make it 30 days, you could make it 30 days.
Okay, you had a recommendation.
My recommendation was to change, subject to mutually agreeable terms and conditions. That would be the paragraph. The change. And an easy way to do it, number 2. You could say, amend the motion subject to Mr. McMahon's recommendation.
I'll second it.
Off we go. Yeah.
I seconded it.
Somebody else has to make that one.
I actually made the motion.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do agree though that maybe we should look at the 30-day versus the 90-day, or even a 60-day versus the 90-day, because 90 days is a really long time. Whenever we're going.
Really, if she pulls out on you, you'll lose your other vet. If you wait 3 months.
Yeah, I've already lost one, so the more time we take on this, the more I'm likely to lose.
Right.
Yes, and so waiting another 90 days. It's
So
going to be
Mayor, I'd like to
hard.
table this
Things aren't
motion
going well.
till next meeting so we can make the adjustments necessary to get this off so we can pass it. Because there seems to be a lot of, they need to figure out what they want and bring something back to us.
Okay.
And change the
All right.
wording or whatever.
Let's
But I'd
table
like to table it till next
till the
meeting.
next meeting. Okay. And then we asked them to put in Patrick's recommendations and then come up with a reasonable, if you want to change that from 30 to 90 or Patrick, I know you want to say that, go ahead.
Well, what I was gonna say is if we do that, that should give Laura the opportunity to take this and say, hey, it wasn't approved because there's a couple little changes. But what do you think about this?
I like that.
And so then we may be further ahead at that second. Because you're still gonna have to visit with her about whether this was approved tonight or not, what she thinks about these terms, right?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, okay, you have a voice.
Okay, you will not get a yes from me unless you raise your hand. That's my opinion on the whole thing. You will not. Unless it's 2 or over, you will not get a yes from me.
2,000.
In your discussion, why don't you ask her thoughts on the rent? And obviously she would love to keep it like it is, or she wouldn't be agreeable to everything.
She can
But
serve full contract in 1 day.
I know, but back to the citizens do need it. At least in the foreseeable future. So, all right, we have a motion and a second to table this until next meeting. Any more discussion? Okay.
Commissioner White? To table
We're
it?
tabling it.
Okay, yes. Yes, Randy?
I'm sorry,
Yes.
did you say me?
Randy?
Yes.
Commissioner Rhodes?
Yes.
But she said it was.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, you saw.
Yeah. Okay, I'm all out, I'm sorry. Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion for resolution 2022-081 approval of memorandum of understanding between the city of Levington and the Lee County Drug Task Force.
We have a motion and a second for this resolution. I'm assuming this is yours.
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, this is the first of 2 housekeeping items. This basically has to do with liability insurance. If you authorize this, if you pass this resolution, it authorizes me to sign a new MOU between our department and the Lee County Drug Task Force. One of our officers is employed full-time by them. And it's basically just stating we're in compliance with the liability requirements, which is $2 million. And I have checked with Stacy Reed of Reed Insurance, and we currently have that coverage, $2 million.
Any further discussion?
So,
Then roll call vote.
Commissioner Trujillo?
Yes.
Commissioner Bowe?
Yes.
Commissioner White? Yes. Commissioner Gandy?
yes.
Mayor Roberts?
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion for resolution 2022-082, approval of a memorandum of understanding between the city, the Levington Police Department and the United States Marshal Service.
Okay, I have a motion and a second for the approval of this resolution. Chief?
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, this would authorize me to sign a new MOU between our department and the United States Marshal Service. Our agent, U.S. Marshal Service in the Drug Task Force as a task force officer. And this is basically updating their MOU to include verbiage about requirements about wearing body worn cameras, which we all do.
Any? No. Jen, roll call vote.
Commissioner Gandy?
Yes.
Commissioner White? Yes. Commissioner Trujillo?
Yes.
Commissioner Bowe?
Yes.
Mayor Roberts?
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, I make approval of resolution 2022-081, Oh, wait. We already did that, right? Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion for accounts provable, accounts payable. Yeah. I'm getting tired.
Second. Okay, motion and second. Ladies,
Hello, my commissioners, my name is on our side, we paid a large check, and it was for the amount of 110.39. That was to the New Mexico Finance Authority. This one was due for over a year, but we're up to date on that one, and we're gonna have monthly payments of $16,000 to $17,000. Thanks for the water.
yeah, it was the one that we were 10 months behind
Yeah.
in June, and I thought we paid it back then. Okay, I was gonna ask why we were paying it again, but I'm glad that you straightened that up. All right. I'll look through the rest of it. I don't have any questions on anything. Does anybody? Okay. No. We got all right. We have a motion and a second to approve the accounts payable. Shannon?
Yes.
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 Yes. With that, agenda is exhausted. We are. I actually did that before the meeting. Because I had to go. I'm shooting off.
Are you going to go back to press? Like that? I would go.
You know what I mean?
No.
I'm a little disappointed they didn't call us edit.
Upload all the tenants.